Kissed by a mermaid? A real-life mermaid encounter? Watch the video, come back afterwards for analysis.
There's a lot of people that come to me asking about my mermaid experience and if I ever had one. I in fact had two mermaid experiences. I had one when I was about 6 or 7 and another one in my early 20s. The one that happened when I was about 6 or 7 is the one that really still sticks with me to this day. So every summer my parents chose a particular place to travel to. It didn't really matter where, we just like to travel around. And on this particular trip, they chose to go to Mississippi. Now, a lot of people don't realize that Mississippi has a beach. It's called Gulfport. Gulfport is a very nice beach. I think if you have a family, it's a really good beach to go to. So on this particular day, it was a chill day. Nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. My brothers were with my dad catching crabs. We were just having a relaxing time. My other siblings were off doing their own thing, and there was me, just sitting at the beach, listening to the waves. Now, at that age, I was very mentally mature. I knew a little too much at that age. And as I'm sitting there on the beach, I would say probably like an hour into sitting there, there's a woman, her head pops out of the water. And I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, maybe it's someone swimming. I remember as I'm glancing at her through my glasses, her hair looked like seaweed. And that's kind of what really caught my attention. So when her head popped out of the water, I remember just staring at her like, this person looks very different. I remember my thoughts got the best of me and I screamed out, hey you, just to see if I would get a response. And she turned her head, like she looked to the right of her because, she heard me. And I got extremely nervous. I'm like, oh, what did I do? I was kind of the kid that liked to mess with things that I shouldn't have. And when she turned her head, after I said, hey, I said it again. I was like, hey, you, who are you? And mind you, my parents were all the way at the other side of the beach. Like they were at the far left of me. So they didn't quite hear me. But for some reason, she heard me. She was just as far as they were. And I remember her dunking her head back underwater. Now, when she dunked her head back underwater, she was facing the opposite side. So I was looking at the back of her head. So when she came out of the water, she was facing me. And it's like I couldn't even see her face because her face had this extreme shimmer, like golden color that was just radiating from her face. And as a kid, I'm sitting there frozen. I was like that guy off of Get Out. I was just looking at her like, and I remember gripping the sand so hard, like it was embedded in my nails. Like, you know how a fish swims? Like how you see the riptides or like the ripples in the water. That's what I saw. When she dunked her head back in, came out, she started swimming towards me. Now, mind you, I'm sitting there staring at this entire thing. Like this person is coming up to me. And I was sitting on my bottom. I was sitting Indian style. And as she got closer, it's like her legs, her fins turned into legs. Like she was walking. And like I said before, I was frozen. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't even move my eyes. Like my vision was tunneled to her. I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, this lady is so beautiful. Like her hair, I remember, looked like black sea moss. Like it was very mossy and it was black and long. So she walked up to me and her walk was so glamorous and it was like an intimate moment. I can't really describe it. And every time I talk about this story, my lips tingle. I always have to lick my lips when I'm talking about this. It's very crazy. So I'm sitting there and she walks up to me. I'm looking up because I'm sitting down. And she kneels down and she grabs me and kisses me on my lips. Didn't say anything, didn't say hi, didn't say, who are you? Nothing. She kissed me on my lips. She gave me a smile, turned around, and walked away. The type of energy that ran through my body after she kissed me, like no language can really describe what I felt. There's nothing that I can say to describe that feeling. When she walked away, I just sat there staring at her until she got very, very far and dunked her head underneath. And when she dunked her head underneath, I could see her fin follow, just like that. And to this day, like, you know how people have, like, when they sense something, it's like you feel it in your head. But for me, I sense it in my lips. Like, my lips tingle really, really bad. And, it's like that's something that no child can really forget. No child can really go to their parents and say, hey, this lady just kissed me. It's nothing that you can go to your parents about. And, to this day, I still dream about her.
So today in Mermaid Files, I'm going to be giving my input and decoding the symbolism that I'm getting from this experience. So if you are new to this channel, hello, welcome. It is your girl. My name is Rosie, and I am a bridge walker and a threshold guardian, amongst other things. But what does that mean? That means I have one foot in this world and another foot in whatever other world is worlding. And that I usually am somebody that can see. I can see and read what I will affectionately call now the coding of the matrix, or the coding of reality. The archetypes, the symbolism, etc., whatever. Depending on the situation. And in this video, I'm choosing this because I am water coded. I've seen that, I've spoken about that in another video. I can link it down below. And so that's why I loved bringing real encounters, whatever it is, to do with water beings. So this lovely girl I came across on TikTok, and it's a very intriguing story. That's why I decided to do it, because when I hear it, it rings true, in the sense that obviously it was true what she felt she experienced, as in her way. But I actually think that there is something to this encounter, as in it really happened. It's not fluff. It's liminal. It's watery, which makes it right up my alley and ready to talk about. So I'm just going to go through some of the main themes. So the story itself plays out so easily, doesn't it? The story itself is that she was a young girl. She was 8. She was on the beach, like she said, with her parents. Her parents were far. The brother was somewhere else, and there she was sitting on the sand, and suddenly sees this beautiful woman come up out of the water, out of nowhere, walked up towards her, all glowing like she couldn't see, brightly lit, knelt down, kissed her on the lips, walked back, dived into the sea. Now, just hearing that without knowing the context of the story, it could sound completely dodgy, like she said, like, who's this woman just coming here kissing underage children? But we are not going there, because I don't think that is what this was about. This is a crash course, and what I'm going to call very much an initiation. Okay, let's deep dive. We'll call her the Sea Moss Mermaid. This to me feels like a very initiatory story. I believe that's how I would view this. All right, it definitely feels she was marked, maybe claimed for future initiation, but it doesn't mean that it's all in a nefarious way. Has been marked, meaning part of her soul fragment, part of her cosmic lineage. It could be a water coded, meaning that she may have had be connected or have other reality, other existences in what would be considered more of a water environment. So first of all, the setting. Gulfport, Mississippi. All right. Water, southern magic, and liminality. All right. Because that area is to me, it's like a threshold zone. All right. Think of it as a mixing bowl of energies. You've got such deep ties to ancestral spirits, crossroad vibes. There's just a lot of crossover, no pun intended, on that land and of the people that have lived in those areas. Then let's go to the age. 8. 8 is the gate, baby. 8 is the gate. The age it occurring, being 8, is incredibly important as well. The fact she was sitting cross-legged in the lotus pose as well, which when you look at it is actually forming an 8. And 8 is a sign for eternity. 8 is a gateway number and karmic connection and story on a very literal as well as a metaphorical sense. It's the infinity loop. It is that bridge between spirit and matter, between the reality and non-reality, all right? It is the age where usually children are just about to start and pulling themselves out to that main initial thrust of childhood. Imagination and play and all of that childhood innocence stuff is usually still there. So you are way more open to experiencing these things around that age. I reckon that at that point as well, like soul fragments that are, and beings that perhaps are connected to you, are connected to your lineage, might start coming through or showing through at that time to maybe plant some sort of seed before activating it at a later point in your life. And I've had very similar experiences that were like that is forever embedded into my mind. And so she was primed and ready, sitting at the shore line, which is a liminality marker, where you're neither here nor there. You're kind of in the middle, where two bubbles of reality often meet. Under the sea and land. It's two states. Like state of consciousness is what I mean. Two states meeting. So people often, if you're considered like a bridge walker like myself, or walk between the worlds, you're a liminal person. Maybe you don't fit in. Maybe you feel you don't fit in all spaces. You're into very different things. It's that self-expression in the physical world of being a liminal being, meaning you are meant to transverse not just one state of reality, but 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So that shoreline, and I've had that symbolically in my codex for a long time, is symbolic in itself how and where she was sitting. All right, it was symbolic that she actually, as a woman, she said to herself that she doesn't know why she did that, but she did. And she didn't do it just once, even though she said she felt fear for some reason. She did it twice. So to me, I believe when I'm reading and looking at that, I'm seeing that was not an accident. It wasn't an accident, all right? The fact that she was alone is also another marker of a liminal experience is about to happen. Usually when people have these where two realities meet and you experience something other, notice how people say it goes silent. You don't hear anything before something happens, whether it's negative or positive. Not in any just way, like people talk about that in the Deep Woods stories. It's not, there's a difference, all right? There's that almost like you're in a vacuum, all right? So, and people are often not present. We see that in many of even the UFO lore, anything like it, all of that type of stuff. You're usually on your own. If you're not separated from a group, you are on your own. And that is not necessarily a predatory thing, depending on the situation. It is that maybe what is meant to be seen by that one specific person and nobody else. And from the story, the way she's talking about it, there was nobody, I don't think anybody would have seen that woman in this experience. They probably would have just been observing the girl kind of sitting there looking up and just looking at something, because nobody else saw it. It was only meant for her. So again, I say the fact that she called out twice, which seems to be the way she was telling the story. It was going against her nature, even as a kid, all right? In my mind, she was being compelled to do it. It was like the soul calling her to do it. And I think that she was meant to do it because she initiated that. If we look at other lore, you see other experiences, whether it's fae, whether it's kind of even more nefarious things. Like vampires, you see them say, they can't enter your house unless you let them in. All right. Now, in vampire, air quotes, lore, it's more nefarious. But the point is what it's saying is, it's the fact that we have to accept. It almost sounds like a contract, doesn't it? We have to willingly, participate almost in things like this. Now, some people might be like, well, what about when people get abducted or these and these things happen? I'm not saying for sure, but this is where it can get a bit weird, because consent is important, but she air quotes, let them in, right? Otherwise, this encounter might not have happened like that. That's why I feel she was compelled to start the interaction. Because there is the there are these sorts of air quotes, cosmic laws or laws in place. You may think, why is this happening? It's random. But it could be your family. You don't know what is lineagely, what is bound or what is connected to your lineage. Therefore, just because you don't know what's going on in that moment doesn't mean that something pre-you is in motion. And that even being your own soul, your own soul fragment. If you're aquatic, you're water coded, you will be water coded. So it is not random. It's like long lost family, basically, coming and turning up on your doorstep for a holiday. You might never have seen Uncle Bob and Aunt Rita in your life. You may never have seen them. But they know you, or they're connected to you, and thus they show up. Okay, so that's why these situations are never random. Resonance is key as well. So she carries the code, she carries the resonance. So we see she's got legs. Yay! So obviously this is a walker between the worlds, literally. Okay, which is another nod to the liminality of the experience. So I feel like this girl definitely is somebody who is a walker between the worlds herself in her own way, which is what makes it quite easy for this to facilitate like this, and often how it works when these things start to happen. So the fact that she saw her with this long, beautiful hair, that's so glamour. That's the pure glamour and allure. But it's also quite a deep, sea moss especially it's a very ancient, nourishing, and an adaptable wild. A bit of an underworld crown. And if you look at the picture that I did here, I did this picture of myself years ago when I was going through a specific phase, and I realised after seeing that this girl was talking about moss, black moss, that's kind of what my picture looks like. The lady comes up out of the water, she can't see her. It's blinded. Now to me that's just, first of all, she's in a trance. That's what that is. What she's in, how she describes it, that's a trance. That's a purposeful trance. Most likely so that, she doesn't go into fight or flight or fear. It's to sort of maybe to control the situation, keep it calm, so that she can see and remember that memory for it to be unpacked at a later time, all right? Maybe late gifts, ability opening up. But the best part is the kiss. This kiss. The kiss, which people, yes, it's dodgy because obviously it was, the young girl. That's a transmission. The tingling lips, the premonition, having to lick them when retelling, that is a sensory anchor. She's a high psychic hotspot at that point. Okay, she received a transmission / activation, and it was downloaded through that point of contact, which is why it still tingles in my mind, which is why I would believe it still tingles to this day. It's like an initiation kiss. You see this all the time in fairy stories. The Frog and the Prince, the kiss of true love, right? Little Mermaid, the Princess and the Frog. It's an action that leads to a completely different state, right? When the princess kissed the frog, it transformed into a prince. The key word here being transformed, alchemized, shape-shifted, but we don't want to use that word right now. Transformation, okay? That's key. It's where you suddenly go from one reality to something else that's completely different through that one action. So in that kiss, we see in the Christian Bible, you see the kiss of Judas, the betrayer's kiss. All right, it's very significant. Now, this isn't a negative or betraying situation, but it's a marker. Now, in my family, my mom was bitten by something when she was a kid, and I'm not going into my whole story lineage, but it was a marker. I could see that for what it was when I look back. When she tells me it was a marker in the same way, all right? And sometimes those can play out in the physical. It's just connecting you to what is already present. Okay, it's not that it changes you at that point, because you already were resonant for that to even happen. It's just now you are aware of it. It's been grounded into this reality, right? We see it as well in the fae realms, fairies. We see the abductions. We read about, all the old tales that we see. So anything to do with that, we see the kiss. It's important. The kiss of true love. The lips. The portal of the throat. The portal of truth to speak the truth, and truth is connected to the truth of who you are, which connects to your soul essence. Who are you? What are your soul fragments? All right. It is the portal that declares you who you are by your truth. Licking of the lips. Yes. It is the physical echo left in this reality of an energetic transmission, the kiss. Some experiences can be so intense that the body does create a bit of a loop. And so every time you think about that, when you think about the event, the frequency of the event pings back to you through that point of contact. So now every time she licks her lips, she's almost unconsciously plugging back into that moment back then, when we know time isn't linear. So it's like you are whizzing back and forth along timelines. So in other words, her nervous system has a little back door to the original download, which all points to it being connected to her lineagely in my mind. Or there's a soul fragment of this girl that I most definitely think is aquatic, or she's water coded. Right, that's the symbol, the layered symbol. So the kiss is a very, very symbolic action here, metaphysically and esoterically. Okay, so quickly, let me go back to trance and glamour. All right, so she was held in kind of an altered state, both to witness and to receive, but not to run. All right, so the beauty and the shimmer and the inability to clearly see the face, it points to me, it points to sort of a veiled initiation. All right, glamour isn't just about hiding. It also can be almost a screen memory, a way it acts like a screen memory of sorts, so that it can kind of transmute the experience to the person having it, so that they're not traumatized by it, so that they might remember it. Like the shining face, oh my god, like that's so classic. Like we see that with otherworldly beings, light beings, the Tuatha De Danann, the shining ones, like this glowing appearance. It's a marker for interdimensionality and other. You're seeing the true form. I had an experience when I was 6 and I saw a light being. I woke up to see a light being in my room, and I will never forget it. And it's just like this. It's so bright you cannot see the features. What I could see, I knew it was a mixture of my physical eye and my third eye that was seeing what, when I'm trying to say the gender, what I was experiencing. But the glow is like a living light bulb, or a living sun almost. It was a light being, and the way it presented itself to me was definitely perhaps to soften it for me, because otherwise I was about to lose my shit. I'm surprised I didn't. I was frozen, just like this girl. I froze. I couldn't move. I didn't feel in danger. My body knew I wasn't in danger. My mind knew, but my 3D mind was like, oh my god, what is this? Don't move. I couldn't move. Physically, I was there. Anyway, that's another story. If anybody's interested in that, I might tell it. And so the fact that this being was shining could potentially be, interdimensional being. Like I said, aquatic. It could be a spirit. It could be spirit, and it could be ancestors. High self, your own version of your part of your own high self, or part of your lineage energy. All right, presenting itself in that way. But also, in this encounter particularly, I think that not seeing was, or her not being able to see the face, was also protection, because you don't want to frazzle people's nervous systems when it can be too much. If you experience too much, it's too much. It becomes very traumatic, and you shut down. That memory will become locked away, as you see it happens when people experience trauma as kids or whatever, and you might not retrieve the memory or want to open that door again. And these sorts of experiences are usually precursors to you unfolding as an adult or in years to come. And these things will start coming to the surface. So if you get too effed up at this point, you're not going to maybe make that you might not make that transition point, because you would have been tipped over the edge. You might want nothing to do with anything. So it's almost a protection as well, right? When these things happen, so you don't see or can't remember much. And I've had dreams where this sort of stuff goes on, and I know that I was not allowed to see who I was with for most likely those reasons, because again, I was a sensitive child and I would have lost my shit. So there's a lot there. So let me know what you think. And look out for the second video where she speaks about her second experience, because that one is really juicy, and I would really love to riff on exactly what it was that I was sensing there. But TLDR, this video, I believe it happened. It was an initiation. She most likely is a bridge walker of sorts, because you can be bridge walkers for many things, but basically you do have a foot in either world, represented by that shoreline. As she was a kid, she was definitely protected from seeing a bit too much so that she doesn't get overwhelmed, and she was in that gateway pose. So the two worlds were perfect to me, and she initiated it. So she started the ball rolling on her own self-initiation. That's another reason why I think it's a benevolent, more connected to the lineage and the soul fragment thing, because she was the one that got that ball rolling. So it's not a possession or a takeover or a forcing in a negative way. It's almost like a part of a calling, but it just plays out differently in reality. And that's why it's good to be able to read the codes around you. And if you can't, you can try and learn little bits, just check your patterns in your reality. Look what's beneath the surface. I'm not saying spend all your time on it, but really sit with it, especially if you're into this stuff. I mean, you probably would love to do it. And if not, that's fine. That's why it's like there are people like me out there putting ourselves out there into public quite scarily doing something like that, because, people can laugh at what I'm saying and not believe and think I'm lost my shit and lost the plot. But this is part of my calling, my path this is the role that I play. I also decode things like this. So you can come on a video like this and you can talk, you can listen and learn, or, you know, ask questions if I don't know everything, but, you know, it could be something we can learn together. All right. But that's why I do this. Because I too am going through things, you know, and it's good to connect and share, because we're forever learning. There's never the moment when you're like a proper graduate in that sense when it comes to this sort of stuff. It's continual learning, evolving, initiation, learning more, integrating more, it's continuous. You know, so yeah, feel free, leave your comments. I really love to know what you guys think about what this experience. I think it was a beautiful experience. I think it was fun, and I'm like, man, I would have loved to be a fly on that wall when that happened, or a fly on that beach. Anyway, guys, until my next video, look out for it. See you soon.